Hello, welcome back to my first autonomous DevSync. Thank you, Daria, for while I was in the mountains a couple of weeks ago, you taking over and handling it. Did a great job, better than I do. And actually, that reminded me I was going to put up the agenda here and forgot to do that. So, well, we have a pretty full agenda here today. Let me get it up on the screen for everybody. So why don't we just go ahead and jump in, put this in slideshow. There we go. With Jim, ecosystem update. I know you've got a lot going on over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jeremy. Great to have you back. Yeah, so we've got a lot going on in ecosystem in the coming weeks. I'm going to try not to steal too much of the dev sync. We are going to have a special edition farmer office hours later on this week on Wednesday. But let's kick off with some hot topics. So these are the items that we see, are intriguing or multiple community members are reporting. So first up is our GitHub subscribers. Those who started the project have spotted commits integrating the GPU plotter. I think Nazar is going to give us a little update later on in the call. Excuse me. I did notice there was a comment about compatibility. That new farms initialized with this test build are compatible with future GPU plotter and can't be used with older versions of the software. So we can see that there's definitely some changes going on in the what's being released as well. Second hot topic is we see some users are reporting that their farming stops. There's a thread that I will link in the description of this video, and it's on YouTube. It does seem, if I've got a handle on what's going on, it seems related to connecting many farmers to the same node. And the latest release does have a fix in it that's designed to mitigate. Hopefully, I've got that right. We've also got an interesting cluster replot problem. Again, I'll drop the thread in the links. It's still being investigated, but if you do see the message timed out without ping from plotter, you can search that on the forum and you'll find the thread. And it's definitely seeing it worth kind of letting us know your experience, because the more information we can get, the more logs, the more data we can get on the problem. It helps us define and then ultimately resolve these issues. Memory usage problem still kicking around, continues to be investigated. I think the latest is that it does seem to be related to sector creation concurrency. I've seen some conversations around tweaking those values. AMD and Intel behave differently. Yes, Nazar wants to give us.
I do not really believe at this point that's related. It's not the primary cause, basically. I believe the reason is very similar to the issue that we have addressed in June 11 release, where for large farmers that only have piece cache on Windows, we were reading pieces concurrently from the cache, and that was causing problems. And then when we switched to not doing that concurrently, that fixed the problem. But for smaller farmers, they not only read pieces from piece cache, but they also read pieces from plot cache. And I believe the same exact situation applies there. And if that happens, then they will see memory usage increase. So when they plot fully, they don't have this problem, or large farmers don't have this problem, but smaller farmers do. And there is a test build, and some users confirm that it does help them. So that will be included in the next release, and we'll see from there.
Thanks, Nazar.
I do not have explanation why it happens, though. I just know that if you do this, it works. If you do that, it doesn't. Why? I have no idea so far.
Okay, so fair to say it's still being investigated, but that's really interesting. So, if I understand correctly, smaller farmers experience the problem one way, and larger farmers experience the problem the other way. Okay, so that's really going to be quite tricky to pin down, because obviously there's going to be a tipping point there. and probably everyone in the middle is fine. So it's one of those worst or the most tricky kind of bugs to track down. Okay, thanks, Nazar. Okay, we've had some developers. This is really exciting for us, requesting XDM docs, so cross-domain messaging. So how can you take like a token from a domain onto consensus or cross-domain, or just communicate between them. We will work on those, and they'll be released as soon as they are available. We've taken a task in ecosystem that's on our board. Operators request for staking docs. So hopefully many have noticed that we did merge a large update on Friday, and we will continue to iterate on the staking docs. The registration process has changed significantly from Stake Wars 1. Yeah, we've needed to change the docs quite significantly. We're going to include documentation and announcements about the Stake Wars 2 claim mechanism coming soon. And I just want to remind everyone that we are not quite ready for staking just yet. Only operators syncing their nodes. That's the safe thing to do. If you do that, you'll be as ready as you possibly can be. So that's hot topics, and it does lead me nicely into a brief rundown of all the exciting things we've got lined up in those coming weeks. So Stake Wars 2, we continue to prep for this, and we'll be announcing the start date as soon as possible. Bear with us. Last week saw many runtime upgrades deployed successfully. Again, I have to remind everyone, please upgrade to the latest builds to prevent crashes and any problems with your farmer. We do still have a number of tasks to complete before we are totally ready for kicking off Stake Wars 2. And again, some of this will be covered in a section of our Wednesday call this week, so please do join us. And that call will include a look at our roadmap on the way to mainnet launch. So all of the tasks outside of Stake Wars 2, including Stake Wars 2, that we need to complete before we're ready. That community call will be a special farmer office hours, and we're going to be taking, in addition, we're going to take a closer look at nomination pool storage fee funds, which Daria has very kindly explained to me, and I've got a forum post to demystify those, and we'll do a little chat. We'll have a little chat about those. We want to talk about testnet and mainnet emissions. So this is part of a wider conversation that we're going to have with some blog posts around parameter selection. So what should the network look like when we launch it? What values should we plug in to the protocol as the start parameters? Daria, again, will be in attendance to help us with any tricky technical questions on those subjects. So please do come with them prepared. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to have a roadmap walkthrough, which should be exciting, get everyone perspective on what we actually need to get done before we're ready for launch. And Emil, who's on the call, will be introducing Hacker Month 2, which is something we're very excited about in ecosystem. In the next, hopefully before the next dev call, the next dev sync, sorry, we'll be announcing a partnership that we've been working on with a very experienced DApp team. They're going to be deploying some critical infrastructure for us on Nova. That's on both testnet and mainnet. We're in the final stages of getting that deal signed and sealed. And finally, from ecosystem, some of the team, myself included, will be off to Brussels next week for ECC. So that's running from Monday the 8th to Thursday the 11th. If you're going to be attending, if you're going to be in Brussels, if you want to meet up with us and have a chat, we're happy to talk about anything autonomous, everything from start commands right through to our vision for auto ID. Please do reach out in any of the usual places. That was a big update. Thanks, Jeremy. I'll hand it back over to you.
You always have so much going on over there. So I did want to comment, and I don't have Auto SDK on the project highlights agenda today, but just to address one of the points you made around XDM, we will also be adding XDM into the Auto SDK here over the next couple of weeks. So another way for developers to be able to kind of facilitate some cross-domain movement. So, um, okay, with that, why don't we jump in? Ning, you were going to give us an update on. We had a lot of things happen last week with the protocol and Gemini 3H. Big upgrade. How'd that go?
Yeah, in last week we had done a successful protocol upgrades, including consensus rank upgrade and the NOVA EVM domains upgrades, rank upgrades were successful and roll out the accumulated feature and improvements and fix to Gemini 3H, including the stage fraud pool and removal of the nominator limitations. Yeah, and as a preparation for the upcoming stable tools, and it's all ready for the community user to test out.
Great. Moving on with preparedness and things with the network, state of the audit. How's that coming?
Yeah, I know people who's been following our GitHub should have seen a lot of like need to audited tags around various issues. Specifically, there's concerning the protocol. Lately, it has been XDM and fraud proofs, but the whole protocol stack has been audited. And this has been a continuous engagement with security research labs or SR labs. They're like leaders in the industry of auditing substrate based chains and other things. So they have produced for us the first draft of the audit that we're currently reviewing that is encompassing the whole stack. So like it's consensus, proof of time, basic execution framework, XDM, fraud proofs, all of that. And we are currently reviewing it and just making some, additions, edits to various issues to make sure that all of the descriptions actually describe the root problems and maybe not the initial ideas that were there. This is report based on the state of the code that was in the end of May. So we know that the protocol is still evolving, we're still fixing bugs, and we're still rolling out upgrades. So it is a continuous engagement. They are continuing to review things, and they are continuing to suggest fixes and review our fixes as well. So closer to mainnet, we're going to have another report updated on the state of all the things that were fixed from the end of May to the mainnet, but we wanted to have kind of middle ground report now to start sharing it with other stakeholders. They want to see it and that they are not necessarily following our GitHub. However, there's not anything new in there for like people who are curious. They're not like big, security issues. They're secret for everybody. This is basically a list of all the issues by tag audit from our GitHub, but like in one PDF. So if you just go to GitHub and click to the label audit, you're still gonna see all of them. So don't expect any big revelations.
But this does kind of represent a major step forward in just showing our mainnet preparedness, I think, for those who are following and interested in such things. Yeah, we continue to move forward and get ever closer.
Getting us attested that we are actually ready to being used by real people.
Yes.
And not that our current farmers are not real people, but like way more people.
So, so not real people. So that's getting to auto score. We'll talk about real people here at the end of the agenda. But yes, this is getting it's getting real. I think we're getting close. So another big kind of step forward that I know everyone is excited in following, and Jim mentioned briefly earlier, is GPU plotting. Nazar, can you give where we are with that?
Sure. So we have initial code for CUDA, which is RTX 2000 and newer GPUs on NVIDIA side, and ROCm for AMD. I believe it's like 7,000 GPUs, probably even earlier, maybe like 5,000. We'll clarify that when we have that released. and we prepared for integration. There is no actually GPU code that landed on the repository yet. Sorry for confusion, but there was some preparation. So for a little bit of background, we had briefly May 23rd release, which was broken, and it was broken in a very interesting way that we kind of revive now. So in the protocol, when we are doing plotting, we generate tables, proof of space tables, and then we query those tables at specific offsets. And the thing is that at some of those offsets, there are more than one proof, and we just need to pick one for the purposes of plotting, and it doesn't really matter which one we pick. What matters is that when we are doing proving or when we try to retrieve data from the plot, we need to pick the same exact proof in order to do decoding, otherwise decoding fails. So that was the regression in the May 23rd, where the ordering of how we pick those proofs has changed. And as a result, when you tried to prove, you may have failed to prove, or if you generated some sector with that version, the new version will fail to actually read that sector properly. That was the thing that we reverted back in May 24th release. But we do kind of need it for the GPU. Why is that the current version, how we pick proofs, is actually implementation defined. So it is defined by the implementation of binary search in standard library of Rust. And that is like the algorithm there is like open source and stuff, but it's not necessarily the most efficient for GPU purposes. And when we discussed this with Supranational, when discussing GPU implementation, we basically agreed that we need to have some more deterministic, like defined way how we pick those proofs. And we decided to pick the first proof after they're sorted. And in order to do that change, we had to introduce a new version of the farm. The original one was version 0. There will be a version 1 of the farm that will pick proofs differently. And it will pick proofs the same way as GPU plotter will. So basically what it means for farmers is that with the upcoming release, when they create a new farm, that new farm will be created with the version 1, and the old farmers software will not be able to deal with that because it will not know what to do. Like it doesn't have the code yet. But the new farmers will be able to then switch between CPU and GPU at will, because they will be the same format. Similarly, if you created farm with the old farmer, it will continue work the way it did before, no change there, but it will not be able to use GPU for the plotting purposes. So that's the gist of what has happened, and we already have the change merged into main branch, where all of the new farms by default create version 1, such that if you decide to switch to GPU, it will be a seamless transition. But all of those who have created farms in the past, they will have to continue using CPU or replot the whole thing, which may actually become viable if GPU plotting is as fast as we expect, but we'll see how it goes. I believe right now we are targeting at something like 50 to 60x speed up comparing to 32-core Threadripper on 4090. Of course, 4090 is way more expensive, but that's kind of the range that we expect. And something like 7900 XTX from AMD will be about half of 4090 in terms of the performance. But again, on the market, it costs about half. The only difference that will be the power consumption. Energy efficiency will be probably not quite there, but you will be able to successfully plot with either of those on Windows and Linux. And I think in the coming weeks we will have all of that code integrated in the official releases.
Very exciting stuff. It seemed like it was going to be a long time when we were first discussing getting the GPU plotting, but that time has gone quick and just about here. So, right, Mark, I believe you're next. You have a demo for us. I know you've been working tirelessly. I don't even know what you're demoing because you have so many things you could demo with all of the work you've been doing to prepare for Stake Wars 2. So excited to see what we have here.
Yeah, a lot of PR merged in the last 2 weeks on the Astral repo. Really awesome. Thank you to Emil, Randy, and you, Jeremy, to have helped me point out, list everything that needed to be improved or fixed. So we did a lot of things recently that changed. We're starting to rebrand to Autonomys slowly. The registration of the operators has changed. Now you can choose to import your key store. So in this case, I just found it already. It's going to create the signature, because some of the change we did recently require a signature, so it's very hard to do on Polka.js. So then the Astral interface is much more helpful for that. Or if you have the seed, you could paste the seed directly and register your operators. We fixed a few other things. For example, on the Nova section, we now had like a banner to refer to the Block Scout Explorer, because it's a bit more user-friendly. In production, that's a lot of the change are just small bug fix, like the buttons to upload the full boards was breaking on a few pages. That has been fixed. Soon we'll see a few new things. We're working on the pending transaction box to, for example, once you send token to someone, the transaction show up right here, so you know the status of that transaction before it gets indexed. I also added an address book here, so listing the wallet that you have connected. So if you want to transfer token between wallet, it's much more efficient. So yeah, there's a few other improvements we're working on. For example, the redraw token has now changed. You're now selecting an amount of share. So the UI is now asking you the percentage of share of your deposit you want to redraw. So those are some of the improvement and change we did recently.
It's looking great. I know we've got a little bit of time before Stake Wars 2 starts, but it looks like it's going to be well prepared. Although I'm sure we will get lots of feedback, and Mark will remain extremely busy throughout his Montreal summer. So no hiking for you, or all right. Next on the list, Auto ID. So this has been mentioned. Autonomous identity is our kind of identity framework we've been working on. It's been mentioned a few times in these updates. It will be going live on Gemini 3H. So we will now have a multi-domain infrastructure, which will play in and be important for Stake Wars 2. And the first application, the application won't be live for Stake Wars 2, but we are also making progress on the design of the first application to be built on Auto ID, and that is what we are tentatively calling Auto Score, which is a probabilistic, composable, and privacy-preserving proof of personhood. So being able to prove that you're probably a person, and not necessarily definitively, at least in our first stages of this. But it's pretty exciting stuff we're working on. Be getting some ZK tech in there. We'll be having some partners, one or two partners that we're kind of in final stages of looking into right now, and then figuring out how we'll integrate them into the system. So just thought I'd give a quick update where we are. And I think that's it for the agenda today, unless anybody has anything to add. All right. Well, as always, we appreciate anybody who's watching these videos, and we will see you all in 2 weeks.